Tech and clips.
Yeah. Famous actors who actually had major pop hits. Yes. Shout out to the channel Grunge, for this video. It was uploaded like a couple of hours ago, So, but to watch this, and I'll definitely take my perspective about it. Yes. Let's go.
Some of the most unlikely actors you can think of have had shockingly successful music careers. Don't believe it? Well, wait until you hear how high Dumbledore made it on the pop charts. In the 1980s, Eddie Murphy was arguably the most famous comedian on earth. So when he released a pop single in 1985, people weren't sure at first if it was a joke or not, especially since his previous musical foray was the 1982 novelty rap song Boogie and...
Guys, I didn't know Eddie Murphy was a musician. He's an actor, he was a comedian before going into acting, but to go into music, I didn't know that. And this was in the 80s. Wow, this is shocking if you ask me. I didn't know that.
But his Rick James produced dance tune, 1985's Party All the Time, was certainly serviceable enough. The song sounded like anything you might hear by, say, one of the seemingly dozens of artists whom Prince sponsored during the period. And Prince actually did sit in on a few sessions for what became Eddie's debut LP as a straight pop artist, How Could It Be, before James swooped in, accompanied by ultra-heavy hitters like Stevie Wonder and Nile Rodgers, who also produced tracks. While Party went all the way to number 2, the second single, he unfortunately titled Put Your Mouth on Me, went nowhere, and his pair of follow-up LPs were barely a blip on the radar. In 1987, while starring in the hit TV show Moonlighting,
Bruce Willis. Wow, I didn't know, guys.
Bruce Willis released an album consisting mostly of R&B covers entitled The Return of Bruno, which was framed as the comeback record for the legendary, totally fictional crooner Bruno Radolini. It was accompanied by a mockumentary about his fake career, which co-starred a bunch of very real music legends.
Showed us this film, No One's Home.
Whoa.
I think that started the whole psychedelic era.
The record was surprisingly successful, peaking at number 14 on the album chart. And its lead single, a cover of the Staple Singers hit Respect Yourself, which featured June Pointer of the Pointer Sisters, climbed all the way to number 5. A pair of follow-up singles stalled out in the lower reaches of the Hot 100, but it's still an impressive achievement.
Nice.
One can hardly mention comedy legend Carol Burnett without mentioning her faithful sidekick, Vicki Lawrence, who appeared early and often throughout the entire 11-season run of The Carol Burnett Show from 1967 to 1978. Lawrence's character Mama was popular enough to spin off into her own sitcom Mama's Family, which ran for 6 seasons in the 80s.
Nice.
So far, so normal. But in 1972, right in the middle of The Carol Burnett Show's hit run, she surprised everybody by dropping one of the weirdest #1 hit singles of all time. That tune was The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia, a ballad about a man wrongly convicted of murder penned by songwriter Bobby Russell. Russell himself wasn't a big fan of the song, but Lawrence was his wife, and she loved it. Her recording debuted at number 100 before rising slowly but surely all the way to the top. A 1991 version by Reba McEntire went to number 12 on the country chart, and the tune even served as the inspiration for a 1981 film of the same name. The late great Irish actor Richard Harris is an absolute legend of the silver screen. A 2-time Academy Award nominee, Harris began his career way back in the 50s and was active right up until his death in 2002. He played everyone from King Arthur in 1967's Camelot to Marcus Aurelius in 2000's Gladiator, and Albus Dumbledore in the first 2 Harry Potter movies.
A lot.
Nice.
Earwax.
He also had a pleasant singing voice, which he displayed on the 1968 single MacArthur Park, a sentimental ballad with a lovely melody and some bizarre lyrics about leaving a cake in the rain. The song cracked the top 10 in several countries, peaked at number 2 in the US, and was later covered by numerous musicians, including Waylon Jennings, who scored a Grammy for his version. Oh, and it was also parodied by the great Weird Al Yankovic, whose version was titled, you guessed it, Jurassic Park. In the late 70s and early 80s, fresh-faced actor David Naughton was looking like the next it dude in Hollywood. For 4 years, he graced the small screen as the center of an advertising campaign by Dr. Pepper, for which he also sang the jingle. The campaign was popular enough that Naughton even toured around the country doing in-person appearances for the soft drink. It was during one of these tours that his agent informed him of a werewolf movie that was in the works from director John Landis. Naughton later recalled to the SF site that Landis was an avid pepper drinker. He was familiar with those commercials and he responded to having the interview with me. This was the unlikely route by which he landed the lead in the classic An American Werewolf in London. But by that point, he had already landed an even more unlikely top 10 pop hit. As the star of the short-lived 1979 TV show Makin' It, Naughton had also recorded the show's theme song, which somehow managed to peak at number 5 on the US charts. The legendary Patrick Swayze loved music, and though he never seemed to really have any aspirations to prove his musical mettle, he wrote and sang tunes apparently just because he wanted to. One of those songs was She's Like the Wind, which he co-wrote with songwriter Stacey Weidlitz for the soundtrack of his 1984 feature Grandview, USA. The song didn't end up making the cut for that movie, but that turned out to be a blessing in disguise. The song, sung by Swayze with additional vocals by Weidlitz's girlfriend Wendy Fraser, was instead used on the soundtrack of Swayze's smash hit 1987 flick Dirty Dancing, which gave it a bit more of a high-profile showcase. She's Like the Wind rocketed all the way to number 3 on the Hot 100 and reached the top of the adult contemporary chart. It wasn't the last time Swayze would pen tunes for his movies, but it was definitely the most notable. For a few years in the early 2010s, the EDM-tinged rock outfit Cobra Starship was all over the radio, releasing 4 albums and scoring a pair of top 10 singles. The first of those, 2009's Good Girls Go Bad, featured a female vocalist, and fans could be forgiven for doing a double take when she showed up in the video. It was none other than Leighton Meester, whose hit TV series Gossip Girl was right in the middle of its 3rd season run. The tune peaked at number 7, but while Meester hasn't had any more hit singles, it turns out she's quite a talented singer and songwriter. She released her solo album Heartstrings, a folk rock record influenced by the likes of Joni Mitchell and Sheryl Crow, in 2014. The album debuted at number 1 on the Heatseekers chart and peaked at number 139 on the Top 200 charts, earning critical accolades. Despite this success, however, she has yet to record a follow-up. As a young actor in the 70s, Don Johnson aspired to be a rock star. He hung out with the likes of Frank Zappa, The Doors, and the Allman Brothers Band, and even co-wrote a tune, Can't Take It With You, for that outfit's 1979 platter Enlightened Robes. In 1984, Johnson landed the role of Sonny Crockett on Miami Vice, and suddenly found himself super famous. At a party, he bumped into CBS Records boss Walter Yetnikoff and got into his ear about his musical aspirations. Yetnikoff listened, nodded, and signed Johnson, then 36 years old, to a record deal right then and there. Johnson dropped his album Heartbeat in 1986, and stacked as it was with contributions from the likes of Tom Petty, Willie Nelson, and Stevie Ray Vaughan, it did pretty well. The title track went all the way to number 5, but after his second LP, 1989's Let It Roll, failed to make an impression, Johnson quit the music game while he was ahead. The 2012 musical comedy Pitch Perfect was a surprise hit. It grossed $115 million globally and raised the profile of the talented Anna Kendrick, who led its ensemble cast. The film's success was in large part due to its soundtrack, which went to number 3 on the album chart, bolstered by the success of Cups, When I'm Gone, which Kendrick briefly performed in the film. Kendrick told David Letterman that she had been inspired to mimic the performance of the song released by the British band Lulu and the Lampshades in 2009. This was an adaptation of a folk tune from the 30s, and garnered attention on YouTube due to its unique accompaniment, rhythmic tapping, slapping, and drumming on cups, hence the title. Kendrick taught herself to do it so well that the producers of Pitch Perfect insisted she perform it in the film. When a shortened version started taking off on the digital charts, Kendrick recorded a full version, complete with an innovative video. And after a slow but steady climb up the charts lasting 28 weeks, Cups peaked at number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100. For the 2018 remake of A Star Is Born, it's safe to say that not many people knew that Bradley Cooper could sing and play guitar. Cooper was known mostly for starring in comedies and for being the voice of everyone's favorite gun-toting, prosthetic limb-obsessed raccoon, Rocket, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But with A Star Is Born, Cooper surprised a lot of folks. Making his directorial debut, he starred as Jackson Maine, a washed-up country artist who discovers Lady Gaga's singer-songwriter Ally in a drag bar and mentors her to stardom. Cooper held his own musically with Gaga, and the flick's signature song, the melodramatic ballad Shallow, became a smash hit. In fact, the tune went to number 1 and scored Gaga an Oscar for Best Original Song. And its pop culture profile was raised further by Cooper and Gaga's performance at the Academy Awards, which was so intimate as to cause widespread speculation as to whether they might be a real-life item. Cooper shot that speculation down, though, telling The Hollywood Reporter, "They kind of fall in love in that scene in the film. It would have been so weird if we were both on stools facing the audience."
When you're singing love songs, that's what you want people to feel.
David Soul is best known for starring opposite Paul Michael Glaser in the beloved 70s action series Starsky and Hutch, but his first ambition was to become a musician, and his first stab at this was very odd indeed. After a demo tape of folk songs got him a record deal in 1965, he donned a ski mask and, calling himself the Covered Man because he wanted to be known only for his music, began making appearances on the Merv Griffin show to promote his tunes. That shtick wore thin pretty quickly, and he got into television acting in the late 60s. After Starsky and Hutch became a cultural phenomenon, though, Soul was able to parlay his newfound super fame into a recording contract, releasing 2 albums during the series' run, and lo and behold, the dude could actually sing quite well.
Yeah.
Soul's debut single, the tender ballad Don't Give Up on Us, went to number 1 in 1977, while subsequent singles stalled out around the middle of the Hot 100 in the US. Yet another number 1 hit in the UK was Silver Lady, and his popularity in the UK endures. Greatest Hits album titled Gold reached number 28 on the UK album charts in 2020. It can be easy to forget that Mark Wahlberg is the kid brother of Donnie Wahlberg from New Kids on the Block. It can be even easier to forget that Mark's first foray into fame wasn't on the silver screen. It was his bare-chested, backwards, ball-cap-wearing, dancey rap guy Marky Mark, the fearless leader of the Funky Bunch. Mark's breakthrough single Good Vibrations soared straight to number 1 in 1991, and the follow-up, the shamelessly Lou Reed Jacking Wild side, made it to number 10. He then parlayed this exposure into a gig as a Calvin Klein underwear model. It all sounds like a bit of a joke, but a funny thing happened. He got a couple of movie roles and did well, earning critical accolades for his role in The Basketball Diaries, before appearing as the lead in Paul Thomas Anderson's 1997 masterpiece Boogie Nights.
Wow.
A quarter century, 2 Oscar nominations, and a distinguished Hollywood career later, Marky Mark is all but forgotten, except by those of us who still feel the vibrations.
It gets old for me.
What do your kids think about it?
They're mortified.
Wow. Okay, guys. Yes, once again, shout outs to Grunge, for this video. Famous actors who actually had major pop hits. Guys, I have to say, I have to be honest, this video totally, caught me off guard. I mean that like in the best way possible. I went in, thinking maybe, just maybe, 1 or 2 actors, dipped their toes into music, but wow, some of these names, blew me away. I mean, blew my mind. Eddie Murphy, sure, I knew about, his comedy, and acting, but I forgot how high, he actually charted, with all these songs that he performed, Number 2 on Billboard, guys. It's so amazing to think that Eddie Murphy, does music, and I mean that in a good way. I mean that's no joke, I have to say. And then Patrick Swayze, She's Like the Wind, I mean that thought, still gives me, like, I get surprised. That man really had it all. Acting chops, dance moves, and a voice, that could melt hearts, And then don't get me started on Bruce Willis, as Bruno. That was wild, I never took, his musical efforts, seriously before, But after hearing this in this video, guys, I respect him the more. And again, I gotta admit, it's got some soul, But I mean, what really surprised me was hearing names like Mark Wahlberg and then Bradley Cooper. I mean, I watched A Star Is Born, and I was surprised, but how good he was performing all these songs in this video, guys. It was something else, yeah. But I loved it. I mean, this video is definitely a fun reminder that talent isn't always limited to one lane. So many of these actors had legit vocal chops and actually scored real hits. It also makes me think about how today's stars could be doing more crossovers. So yeah, if you love music, history, and a bit of surprise nostalgia, I feel like this video is worth every minute. Let me know in the comment section who shook you the most, or if you've got favorite actor turned musician I should react to. Thank you for tuning in, thank you for watching, thank you for sticking with me to the end of the video. I loved it, very much appreciate it on here. My name is Philip, and also the next video, if you can take care, stay safe, peace out.